Welcome to The Art of Growth. This is Jim Zartman, and today, Joel Hubbard and I are continuing our series on empathy for the types by talking about the type 6. Before we jump into that, you can find out more about us at theartofgrowth.org. That's where you can sign up for our next round of certification starting next month. And we are an International Enneagram Associated accredited organization, so you can be officially certified through us. If you are an organization looking to improve team health, we have the Optimizing Team Health training program, and you can reach out to us to find out more about that there. But for now, my friends, let's jump in to talking about empathy for the type 6.
Okay, so we're talking about empathy for the types, and we're looking at the type 6. We're in the head center. The anchor point is the 6, so they're right dead center of the head types. For 6s, there's a sense of feeling alone, and that's different than being alone. There's a difference. Being alone for introverts, wonderful. Love being in the woods, sitting in my cabin up in the north, in the mountains where no one's around, up at a cabin, some introvert that's there enjoying the quiet and the beauty of nature. So restorative to them. That's a big difference of being alone from feeling alone. And for 6s, everybody thinks in the Enneagram world, not everybody, a lot of people think that 6s really primarily are dealing with fear. And what we have learned by encountering so many 6s and typing, thousands of them at this point, is that it's a bit more nuanced than that. So there's anxiety for sure. For some, they'll actually call it fear. Others, it feels more like vigilance, a kind of internal need to always be alert. But what they all relate to is the sense of feeling alone in that sense of vigilance. Like, I'm the crazy one. I'm the one who who sees this stuff and no one else does. And the threat is real. And so there's both a personal feeling of I'm alone and the threat is real. And also you're alone or you're about to go down, too. And I care about you and want to make sure you're okay. So there's a duality to that for a lot of 6s, that they feel both that sense of internal fear around or anxiety or vigilance, alertness around a particular, sometimes generalized, sometimes it is about something specific, and feeling like they're alone in that space. So you can imagine all of us have felt that sense of loneliness at some point in our lives. Feeling alone in our predicament, feeling alone in our pain, feeling alone in our struggle, a private struggle, maybe something that you feel shame around, and every time you think about it, you don't want to talk to anybody about it or anybody to know about that. But it creates this internal sense of loneliness for you. And this is something that all types are prone to loneliness or experience loneliness occasionally or frequently. But for the 6, it's that feeling alone and scared, feeling alone and having to be vigilant and alert. And that's the thing that really is hard on their hearts.
Yeah, because that can happen in a crowd and that can happen on the mountain in the cabin.
That's right.
Like either context, it can produce that. Where I have a lot of empathy for the 6 is there is this need to know and this belief that if I have the answer that I seek, I'll feel better. So I've had so many conversations with 6s where it's just kind of like I'm asking questions or I'm doing research or I'm putting myself into situations because there is some kind of thing that I am anticipating and I want to know the answer to it. And if I have the answer, if someone gives me an answer, I will feel better. I will feel more secure. I will feel supported. I will feel more stable. And that internal battle of like, I need to find an answer and I'm not sure there is one. And that can make me feel alone and that can make me feel unstable and that can make me feel like I'm not really being supported. And I've certainly been in situations, and I think all of us have been in certain situations where there was something about to happen and we weren't sure how it was going to go. How are people going to respond to us? Could something go wrong? Or could someone say something that really messes up the dynamic of the group? Or you're trying to know what's going to happen in a particular situation so that you feel like it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some major change in your job, and you know that there's going to be a lot of either layoffs or budget cuts or promotions, and I don't know who's going to get what, or like you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. And you know it's going to affect your life, and you feel like I'll feel so much better if I know.
Mm-hmm.
And this need to know is always firing in whatever is coming down the tailpipe. It's like tailpipe, whatever's coming down the pipe, whatever. And I'm going to do whatever I can to seek the answers to that, because then I'll feel less alone. I'll feel more stable. I'll feel more secure. I'll feel more supported.
Yeah, it's the anticipation. The anticipation is something all of us can relate to at some level, where we've anticipated bad news. We've anticipated, our interaction with somebody that we don't think is going to go well. So the anticipation kicks in. It creates some anxiety for us. For the 6, anticipation is a constant thing. It's a constant feature. It's not something that comes and goes. It is there every day, and it's a means to being prepared, really, for whatever could come our way down the pipeline.
That word.
Not the tailpipe. Yeah, so I think that is where people who don't understand 6s will start to see that as noise and as useless and maybe dismiss that. And this is what they regularly face in the world, is a sense of, I'm being dismissed. My fears are being dismissed. If you understand that for every type, whatever your core is, the dismissal of that thing is a dismissal of you. That's how identified we are with our core, right? So the dismissal of your concerns as a 6 feels like the dismissal of them. So that's the part of, again, coming alongside, sharing with them in their concern. This is what we say in terms of empathy for each of the types. It's not your empathy for their pattern, how they go about meeting that core need. I mean,
but when you
of us,
see it manifesting, remembering and responding to what's actually going on behind this.
At the heart level.
Right.
Right. So in all core types, all the core needs really are driven by the combination of the heart and then the head. But it's really the heart center that feels it. Like that core need at the existential level, it's like, oh, that feels like fear, or that feels just deprivating, that feels weak, I feel alone, I feel cast off. There's all sorts of things that we feel. That's what we can align with people on, because we have felt all 9 of those core fears, those core needs. We just don't go about them the same way.
Yeah.
So
or with the same frequency.
Or
that's the thing is, I think we all jump into any of the feelings that all the types struggle with, and we have at times that need, but it's remembering that this person's feeling that need way more consistently. Like it's always going on. Can you imagine what it would be like to feel that all the time? To feel that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because this is a place that, like, for most of us, if you're not a 6, like, you might visit. If you're a head type, you can definitely get into some of it, but you can't get into, like, seeing that function all the time.
Right.
That need to know, that anticipation of what's going on, of even when it comes to things like in relationships, this desire for both support and independence. It's like there's always these 2 things that are pulling at either side of you.
Yeah.
And being comfortable coming back to what so many head types and 6s in particular resonate with, which is that I'm deeply okay right now.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always see it almost like these like webbing, like little Spider-Man webs that shoot off into every single different direction coming out of them. It's like, yes. And I'm feeling when one of those gets dinged, right? So that's how spiders work. And I just saw it in a Spider-Man movie, but he's got all these lines going down in all these different directions because he's waiting for one of them to get dunged. Yeah. So you're always tuned in to one of those strings being plucked, and then your attention's going to go that direction. And so imagine like sitting in the middle of your life, and which is this web, and then you're always feeling one of those get plucked. Those strings get plucked, and you're getting pulled in that direction. And I think so often that's what it's like to be on the inside of a 6. And for them to kind of come back or be with someone who says, your concerns matter. Do you have any other questions? I'm willing to listen to this. I'm willing to have an interaction about this, and feeling really comfortable with that, being comfortable being on the inside of, how can I help you feel more stable in the situation.
Mm-hmm. The word with is always the word I have to come back to when I'm interacting with sixes is in what way can I be with or alongside of them in their struggle? Doesn't mean I have to understand. And this is the difference. Or solve. Right.
Right.
Well, they don't want that.
No, exactly.
But understanding does not mean I get. If you get there, great. But you don't always, right? So because some types just are like, I have no idea how you get from here to there in your thinking. And it just, I can't track with that. That's not how I would think about it. That's okay. You don't have to. But to be alongside of the heart center, is that what that's like for you? Is that what you feel? Okay. And then how did you get from here to there? And what are some, okay. Wow, I wouldn't go there, but I understand the feeling and I'm with you there. Like that's a scary feeling. Like that alone is better than the dismissal or trying to over-relate to. That's another thing we should say for all of the 9 types. Like don't over-relate to the core need or, to the pattern. Don't over-relate. You can relate to the core need.
Right.
But it is totally adequate and actually sometimes very helpful for you to not relate to the pattern. You can see the pattern occasionally inside you and you can go there and go, oh yeah, I can relate to that. I've done that before. Right. But the over-relating of, I totally get it. Yeah. And for me, it would be
God,
it doesn't really help much.
No.
Because it's sort of like you've taken the attention back onto yourself and that at that point is you want to be able to keep the attention on them. And in order to do so, surprisingly, there's also a sense of not being with them in their pattern. And that is important. It has them as a unique, separate, not you. It's back to them, right? You're not me, I'm not you. We're different. And that's why I can value you, right? Otherwise, I'm mixing up value with like myself. I'm valuing myself in this moment or my story or my experience.
Yep. Well, I want to say this for all of the types, but it definitely comes up with the 6, so I'll say it here, which is I want to highlight something you just said. When someone is sharing something, it is not that helpful to be like, I totally understand and here's my experience. That's not really the best response. I get why people do that. Yep. It makes sense. You're trying to empathize. You're trying to connect. You're trying to be relatable, but you can never fully be on the inside of someone else's experience. You are always, to some extent, an observer to anyone's experience. And so it is far better in any of those situations to simply say, wow, that's hard. What has that been like for you? Yeah. I'm hearing you. That I really appreciate you sharing that. That is more connective and empathetic than having a somewhat similar experience or story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good advice for any type, but it's really good for a 6, is to make them feel like you are empathizing, like you are connecting with them, like you are being supportive, wanting to hear their concerns, being with them in those places is really good. Being aware that anticipation, that need to know is the thing that is manifesting, but what is behind it is wanting to feel like whatever I'm facing, I'm not alone in it. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that I have anxiety about, that I'm concerned about, I don't stand alone on the ground of that mystery because you are with me and together we can walk through this because I am deeply okay right here and right now.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us and for listening. Make sure you're signed up for our newsletter at theartofgrowth.org. And we wanted to let you know that we have now compiled our past panels episodes into individual podcasts. So you can go and just look up Enneagram Type 6, for instance, and all the past panels will be on a single podcast. We did this because it's an easier way to introduce people to our work. And if someone's new to the Enneagram, they can binge on multiple episodes of their type. But for now, my friends, let us lean into the 6 within all of us that needs to feel secure and safe in this world,
that has to navigate the anticipation of our own mind if we feel stressed about something or we're not sure how something's going to turn out, and to have grace for that part of ourselves and return to the place where we tell ourselves, I am deeply okay right here, right now. And I will use my mind to find a way through and to surround myself with people who can create the support network that I need. And we will mutually serve each other in this way. Grace and growth, my friends.